welcome to the podcast. I'm so honored to have you here. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. And thank you to everybody who's been reaching out and providing feedback. I so appreciate it. Sometimes I am not sure how things are resonating. And so I really love the feedback, and I appreciate all the kindness and the comments. Just being able to do this and know that it's resonating with someone and it's helping them on their journey through life really is such a rewarding and such an honor in so many ways. So I really appreciate all of the feedback that I have received recently. So thank you, thank you. So we're going to focus in on the energies of March. I'm recording this on February 28th. So we have a whole bunch of new things coming in the month of March that I wanted to touch base on, because March is really a month where we are going to see a pivot point. If you listen to pretty much any astrologer right now, they've been talking about 2025 in general, but March is a really big month where we're going to see a collective change just because of all of the different things that are going on astrologically this month. And as you can tell, if you haven't already noticed, really starting kind of in November, we started to see a big ramp up of what I would call very scattered and nervous type of energy happening across the globe. And that, of course, is only amplified as we have had some major changes on the global stage taking place. So there's a lot of shifts and changes happening externally, and there's a lot of noise going on from that perspective, but also very subtly. And I think that for those of you who listen to me, obviously you're probably more tuned in to some of these shifts and changes from a subtle standpoint. But globally, collectively, we have been seeing these very subtle changes happening in each one of us. And I had gotten a really interesting download the other day, and I put this on my Instagram account. For months, I've been seeing the tectonic plates of Earth actually starting to shift quite a bit and move. But then I was shown that those tectonic plates actually are residing in each of us. And those plates, as they are moving in Earth, and she is trying to find some relief from a lot of the energies that she's been holding for the collective as well. We are also opening and cracking open ourselves in those shifts, and that opening and that cracking is allowing us to bring in new energies into us. And for many of us, for the last year or so, we've even been feeling as though we are saying goodbye to things, that these versions of ourselves have been slowly starting to peel off. And it's appropriate that this is the snake year, because if you think about what snakes do, snakes are ones that actually start to peel off. The skin starts to shed, and they go through the shedding process. And this is really the energy of what we're in. We're in a big shedding process, and that is pushing us into very uncharted territory. And so things feel a lot. And as a person who is an empath or very sensitive to energies, the last few weeks especially has been a bit overwhelming for the system. And we have been very much feeling the collective energy. And I was doing some emotion clearing a few days ago, and the emotion of terror came up. And I started asking, is this mine? And it wasn't mine, and it wasn't ancestral, and it wasn't past life. It was collective energy that I was holding. And so when I'm holding collective energy, which I do not tend to hold collective energy, that is something I don't intend to do. So if I'm holding the collective energy, that means that many, many, many other people are holding the collective energy. And when we're holding it and we're unconscious that we're holding it, it means that we are amplifying that energy out. And it's almost a snowball effect that happens energetically, because it starts to gain momentum and it starts to then overtake and overrun everything and everyone. And so it was very, very important for me to ensure that I was releasing that I was not holding that, and I was making sure that we were really looking at how to try and guard myself from some of the external noise that is happening. So this is a very important time to really start looking at you and making sure that you're taking care of you at the deepest level, because it is very easy right now, because there is an amplification of this fear and this feeling of terror and this feeling of doom and gloom to override us in a way where it's hard for us to get out of that. We are naturally, as humans, have a tendency to go to the negative mind always. The negative mind is always on overdrive. And the positive mind is also trying to run recourse on the negative mind all the time, trying to remember that you're safe, that you're okay. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting for your mind when it's constantly processing negative thoughts and the positive mind's trying to overcompensate. So what I'm trying to say through all of this is just make sure that you're doing whatever you can to stay in the neutral space, to stay in a neutral mind. We're in still the Pisces mansion right now. And the Pisces mansion is about this higher mind view of what's going on, to looking at things from a different perspective, looking at it from a higher perspective, instead of getting into the weeds and into the overwhelm that can happen at this time. And so I would encourage you to do whatever you can to make sure that your peace is number one and make sure you're okay. So some of the things that you may have to do is turn off the news, don't watch the news, pause social media for a while, mute certain accounts, mute friends who may be over amplifying this and talking about this and hyper focused on things that are going on. As a reminder, we are in a new era. We have left the Piscean era and we have moved into the Aquarian era. When we have such a massive shift where we're going through a collective shift of that magnitude, the things that we have created as humans, the experiences that we have created, the comfort that we have created around these things that we have invented and the structures that we've put in place, if these things start to shift, it creates an unstable foundation for many of us, because we are not always built as humans to initiate change in our life. We are not, most of us do not run towards chaos. We do not run towards change. We do not initiate change. Some of us do. Some of us actually, this is part of our life path that we initiate change for massive growth and transformation. But for the mass majority of us that are living here on Earth, we avoid change at all costs, and change is very scary. And many times these changes can happen because consciously, whether we understand it or not, we have to get to a different place as a humanity in order for us to shift and change. And if we just look at the systems that are in place, and I can just speak from the United States perspective because I don't live anyplace else, there's a lot of systems that are in place that are not working right now. They're just not working. We're also getting an amplification in our face of the patriotism, of not patriotism, but patriarchy, of the patriarchy, of the systems that have been in place for a long time. And sometimes these things have to get amplified. They have to be so in our face for us to actually make a change and an effort. And people have to get impacted in some ways. Their life has to be altered in a way that is coming from outside of them, right? It's forced change outside of them in order for them to make the changes that need to be made in order to create a better system, a better community, a better way of living. And this is not a political statement because I am not attached to any political thing at all. I am neutral to any of this stuff. It is simply to say that sometimes as a humanity, we have to change and evolve. And if you know anything about history, if you studied history at all, obviously we have had these cycles over and over and over again, where we as a humanity have gone through massive shifts and massive changes. And there's been, different types of communities and systems that have been built that have been great. If you think about Rome and you think about Egypt and you think about all of these different countries and different communities that have been built over the years that are no longer here, they're no longer standing, or they've morphed into something different over time. This is what we're going through. We're going through a metamorphosis process. And March, to me, and I think to a lot of people, we've been feeling this buildup happening around these energies. And March to me feels like a big pivot point as far as some big changes that are going to be happening within this month that's going to help to shift our consciousness even in a greater way. And that could then initiate a global change, a global situation that's going to help us evolve even more so than we already are. So this is a big time for us to look inward at ourselves. It is a time for us to look and see what is in place right now, and are the things that we have in place, are they on a solid foundation? This is really what we're getting called to do in March, is relook at the foundation. There's many times, especially in my journey, where I have gone down this path and I think I'm on a stable foundation and I'm not. There's cracks in the foundation. I was sloppy when I built the foundation, and there was cracks in the foundation, and there's hairline fractures, and sometimes there's massive cracks in the foundation. And it's been those times where I've had to completely tear everything down. I've had to strip everything back to the absolute bare bone. And I've had to sit in it for a little bit. And I've had to examine every aspect of my life. And then I have had to start to rebuild the foundation. And I think this is the time where we've really got to look at our foundations and say to ourselves, is this something that is absolutely solid? Do I have a solid foundation? Because without a solid foundation, it's very easy to get knocked off course. And when external events are happening that are impacting the global consciousness and that is amplifying emotions like terror and fear, it is very easy for that foundation and for you to get knocked off course. And so if you can imagine yourself in the middle of a very busy street, imagine yourself in Times Square in New York City, and there's lights and people and cars and all kinds of things going on all the time. And if you can imagine yourself sitting there completely still in your center and in a place where nothing is impacting you, nothing's disturbing you, you've got a solid foundation. And if you can get back there very quickly and shift yourself back to neutral whenever you find yourself getting off course, then you have a solid foundation. If you find yourself getting really distracted though, and upset and pulled into the noise or pulled into the chaos, then this is the time to go back and re-examine what is actually going on. So a lot of the energy that came through as I was thinking about this and tuning into the energy of March was around this whole idea around the foundation. And the other thing that came through was that I keep hearing this over and over again, that you are the solution, that you hold the ideas, you are the initiator, and you are the designer of your life and your community. And now more than ever, I keep seeing things coming in to focus where we're going to return back to community. And whether that's community online, bringing people together of like-mindedness, whether that is community at the local level, meaning you are really hyper focusing on that community here, or it's just community of people that you can attach to that maybe live in a city, but that you have common interests, common goals, common ideas around. that is really the main focus that I'm seeing, is that we're going from this very like big machine, this huge thing, all the way down to here, and knowing that we can make a difference every day at our community level, and that we are the ones who hold the solutions, the ideas, and the innovation for the next chapter, the next iteration of what we're doing. And again, we're letting go of this Piscean energy, this Piscean age, and we're moving into this whole new Aquarian era. So think about it as a blank canvas. Think about it as something that completely can be from scratch. And Aquarius not only is very inventive, that energy is extremely inventive. It is the innovator energy, but it is also the disruptor. It is the one that is coming in to disrupt the systems. It is the one that is saying, okay, we need to rethink about how we're doing this all together. And if we're looking, I mean, just from my own experience, I can look at the traditional medical system in the United States. And I had a really serious illness last year, and I had to go through ERs and hospitals and insurance stuff and all kinds of chaotic mess through that system. And that gave me a different perspective to realize, like, this isn't working for anybody, right? This system does not work for anybody. It's not a benefit to one person within the system. So these are the type of things that it's an opportunity to relook at. It's an opportunity to come in with new, fresh ideas. It's an opportunity to really be innovative in how we handle our health moving forward. And this is going to be one of these things where we're really at the forefront of being able to do something in a new way and a new perspective. So think about that as you are looking at March, and when these big shifts and changes do occur in March, because they are going to happen. Think about how you're going to react to that. You either can be told what to do, or you can actually lead the change. I think we all have a lot of ability to do this, to be the leaders of the change. And this is really the energy that we're working with. So see what you can do to not only find your center, but also to be the innovator of change in your life. So let's talk really quick about the March energies and some of the key things that we see going on, and how this is going to potentially impact us collectively. Obviously, we each have our own individual path, and some of the stuff may not even impact you at all, depending on what journey you're personally going on. But collectively, what we could see in the outer worlds, and what the collective energy is going to be for March. So we begin the month, March 1st, we begin the month with Venus going retrograde. So Venus going retrograde is always a very interesting thing that happens. I mean, she does go retrograde often, but when she does, we are looking around themes about our relationships, our personal value system, our possessions. Also, it's about how we kind of interact with the world as it relates to what we possibly do from a service standpoint, from a way to make money. So Venus is a very interesting one when it goes retrograde. The thing that's extra about Venus retrograde this year is that it's in the sign of Aries. So Aries is the starter of the zodiac. It is typically ruled by Mars, the masculine energy, and it is very much about no nonsense. It doesn't really think through things very much. It's very reactive. It's very impulsive energy. And so when we're looking at re-examining things, as we do within retrograde cycles, we're going back and we're revisiting and relearning. We're looking at things at this time with Venus in retrograde in Aries as a pretty much no nonsense approach. So when Venus was in retrograde in 2023, it was in a pretty long cycle. July to about September is when it was in retrograde in 2023. This was a huge shakeup of personal relationships, of personal finances, of a re-examination of stuff. And that one was brutal. At least for me, it was a brutal time where there was a lot of stuff that came up karmically, and there was a clearing out of a lot of people in my life. And you know, sometimes when you do not proactively take care of certain things in your life, trust me, the universe is going to come in and it will clear the decks for you. It will move you out of situations very quickly, and it will change situations very quickly to move people out of your life that are no longer aligned on the path that you're supposed to be on. So this is the energy that we're working with. And Venus is going to start in Aries and then move back into Pisces. So two totally different energies, very aggressive, fiery energy, no nonsense energy to start with. And then we're retrograding back into Pisces, which is all about the oneness of all. So we may end this with a little bit more love for ourselves and compassion for other people, and taking that type of look at it. But we're certainly not going to start that way. So it's going to be a lot of no nonsense stuff. This is going to be very interesting to see on the collective scale and what is going on geopolitically as it relates to relationships, because things are already on dicey ground, if you may not have noticed. So we're definitely going to see some shakeup there. Now, Mars just went direct just this last week, and it had been in retrograde cycle. And so it is now moving forward in Cancer, which it does not like to be in Cancer, and Venus does not like to be in Aries at all. It's not comfortable energy for either one of them. And when that happened, it was a cranky day. It was really cranky, and it was really hard on everyone's body. There was a lot of body aches and headaches and all kinds of stuff going on with these two energies crossing each other. So just be mindful of knowing that there's awareness around the fact that relationships and your finances and your value system could change pretty darn quickly. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens during this retrograde. Then we have Mercury entering Aries 2 days later. So our thoughts and our communications are also going to be very fiery and very direct during that time. So not only are we re-examining all of these themes with Venus, but we're also going to add on to the mix Mercury also being in Aries. So this is very direct communication. And Mercury is already in its shadow period because it's going to start to go retrograde on March 14th. So again, it's starting to do its turnaround cycle. It's starting to ramp up to its retrograde, and it's only going to amplify that energy even more. Then, March 13th, we have the first eclipse, which is a almost full lunar eclipse, not quite full, but almost full. This is the blood moon, and this is going to take place in the sign of Virgo. So eclipses always bring very sudden, quick changes into the fold, into the energy, especially wherever it's tracking across the globe. There's going to be more energy and emphasis there. For this particular one, this is around our emotions, of course, and Virgo likes to dissect, and on the shadow side, it likes to dissect the emotions. It likes to criticize and amplify those emotions. On the higher octave of Virgo, though, it's much more about the healing abilities. It's much more about taking more of a healing approach to our emotions. But this one is going to be completely over North America and South America, parts of some little bit of Central America, but mostly South America and North America. It will be seen over Australia and Northeast Asia, and setting over Africa and Europe a bit. So we will see a little bit more emphasis in North America, again, with Venus, with relationships, with Mercury going retrograde in Aries as well, and we have this eclipse, we could see some more stuff on the geopolitical stage of conflict going on and of potential relationships falling out. So it will be interesting to see what is happening from that standpoint. For you, just know that emotions could be heightened a bit during this time frame. And we just need to be very gentle with ourselves as we are navigating this time. So remember to come back to yourself, come back to your center, and make sure that you are taking care of you even more so than you normally do during this period. So the next big event's going to happen is we've got Mercury going retrograde on March 14th. So this will add another layer of energetic confusion, frustration, all the things that Mercury retrograde can bring with it. It's also just a good time to pause and think through things a little bit deeper when it's in retrograde, and look at things from a different perspective. So keep that in mind. But know that Aries energy that's attached to this is not one to be contemplative so much. It's much more about taking action. So there may be some frustration here anytime Aries is restricted in any way. So there's that kind of pullback. It may get a lot of frustration built up in that regard. So just be mindful of that. And then March 20th, we start the spring equinox. It's the rebirth, and the rebirth is going to happen. So this is the astrological new year, and we are bringing in a whole rebirth for sure. As a collective, we're rebirthing. We are rebirthing individually, and this is going to be the start of that rebirth on the 20th. And then on March 27th, Venus is then going to retrograde back into Pisces. And it's going to kind of get all jumbled up with a lot of energies in Pisces, including the North Node, Saturn, and Neptune. Neptune and Saturn are getting ready to leave Pisces, but all that's going to kind of come together. And so some of that could create some illusions. It could create some fogginess. Saturn's going to give us much more discipline. Neptune's going to create more fogginess. And the North Node, of course, is the direction we're all heading. We're heading in the direction of the North Node in Pisces for the next 16 months. So we've got a lot of energy moving towards this whole Piscean energy at that time. So it's going to be interesting. On March 29th, we have the solar eclipse. This is going to be in the sign of Aries. So this is a partial eclipse that's happening, and this is going to impact parts of the northeast United States, eastern Canada, Greenland, Europe, northwest Africa, and northwestern Russia. So again, amplification of energies, those particular areas where we are seeing this eclipse hitting. Again, the East Coast is obviously where the seat of power is for the United States. This is also going to hit Canada. Those relationships are strained. Greenland is another big player on the geopolitical stage, as well as what Europe is going to do with new leadership in Germany and these European leaders coming together, as well as northwestern Russia. So, which is also not quite where the seat of power is for Russia, but certainly it's going to be interesting to see what is going on as it relates to the Russia-Ukraine conflict that has happened for quite some time now. So we will see how this is going to impact it. Again, sudden shifts and changes. We are going to hold the vision of peace and unity, and a vision of lots of great things coming in for all of us globally. That's the vision we're going to hold with these shifts, that we're moving into a higher octave of shift versus a fear. We're not going to stay in the fear state. We're going to stay in the higher octave state as it relates to these things. And then finally, the big news is that March 30th, Neptune is going to enter Aries, leaving Pisces after 14 years. It's coming into Aries. And this is the first of the outer planets that are going to be changing signs this year. Remember, we've got 4 outer planets that are changing signs this year. That's huge, because when outer planets move, it is impacting the collective. Not so much for you individually. Sometimes it is if it's really hitting your chart in a way, but this is much more of a collective, a global shift that's happening when these outer planets change signs. And the big news is that they are going from water and earth signs, which are, water's fluid, earth is more stable and grounding, and we're going into fire signs and air signs now. So that means that fire, obviously we know what fire does. It can spread and be very destructive very quickly, and it can clear things out of the path very fast. Air obviously can come in and move things very quickly. So if you are already feeling a ramp up of energy, meaning you are already feeling an acceleration that has been happening, this is only going to get more accelerated as these outer planets continue to change signs, because we are in a process of major amplification, of a major fast track ahead to this new way of doing things, and this new vision, and this new earth. In many ways, it's about this new earth. And so this is going to make a lot of changes. Neptune has been in its ruling sign. It's Pisces is ruled by Neptune, so it's been there. This has created a lot of delusion. It's created a lot of people moving into a spiritual pathway to have that more of a mainstream conversation. Spirituality in general has become very much a mainstream topic. But we've also seen a rise in a lot of interesting spiritual practices coming into the forefront, or practices that say it's spiritual, but it's really something else. It's disguised as something else. We've also seen a decrease overall globally in people going into traditional religious structures, into church specifically, like attendance is down across the board at traditional churches. That is a prep for this new era, because we are moving out of the Piscean age, where these religious structures were established in the first place. And now that we're moving into Aquarius, Aquarius is so much more about self-sovereignty. It's so much more about personal power. It's so much more about radically thinking in a different way. Now we may see a rise in some fundamentalism that's going to increase in order to try and hold on to structures, very much like what we're seeing anyway with patriarchy and a lot of these traditional governmental structures and a lot of these systems that have been built that are very much about control. And so moving forward with Neptune going into Aries, the way I look at this energy, if I look at Neptune as being really the spiritual path, right? The one that's very much tied to our higher self. It's tied to the cosmos. It's tied to things beyond just our reality here. It is about the oneness of all. It is about the beauty and the oneness of everything. It doesn't have any boundaries with it. It's limitless. It is boundless. It is just, it all emerges into one. What's very interesting about this energy moving into Aries is really about the eye. It is about the physical. It's about our physical body. It is about our embodiment. It is about our outlook on life, because it rules the first house. It is about taking action on things. And so I really see this whole concept of, quote, spirituality and these constructs that we have, again, created, and a little bit of the delusion that's been created around this, right? This like idea around enlightenment and woo-woo stuff and all the things, right? It's not to dismiss that, but I think we're going to see pretty big changes as it relates to that. And it feels as though there's been a lot of people out there who have become very prominent spiritual people in the forefront, and very much the love and light, brigade and all these things. And I think it's going to be stripped back after this. I think not only are we having a shift in religious organizations, traditional religious organizations, having to completely shift and adjust, but I really feel like this is about our own personal sovereignty and our own personal power and stepping into that at a deeper level. And as we have been having these tectonic shifts happening within ourselves, and it feels as though these versions of us, these remembrances of the lifetimes that we have lived before, and pieces of our higher self, the knowledge and the wisdom that we already hold, are becoming more accessible, we're becoming more aware of it. We're becoming more comfortable with holding those pieces of ourselves. We are becoming less tolerant of not fully knowing who we are, not fully stepping into the embodiment of those pieces of us. I think that Neptune and Aries for the next 14 years is going to help us step further into our own personal power and our own sovereignty, and take things like religion and turn them into something completely different. And it's really about, the difference is about the I. As Aries is about the I, it is really about knowing yourself at the deepest level and pulling into your personal power. So that is what I really see with that Neptune and Aries moving in. Now, Neptune will dip back in a retrograde back into Pisces for a little bit and then come back in. That will give us a time to review things, maybe re-examine, and maybe have some more clarity around the last 14 years and what we've been seeing in order for us to really implement the change moving forward. So again, March has a lot of things going on. This is very much reminiscent of 2023, July through about October of 2023, where there was a lot of stuff getting stirred up, a lot of energy stuff, lots of karmic stuff getting stirred up that needed to be cleared out and moved out. And I think that this is another opportunity for many of us to go back and relook at all of this yet again and make a determination about how we want to live, and how we want to what kind of vision we want for our own life and our own future. So it's going to be a very interesting time for sure. So as we're talking about like the big theme of March and about taking care of ourselves and looking at our foundation, I pulled a card from Amanda Ellis's Christ Consciousness deck, a beautiful deck. And I always look to this for kind of the wisdom of, again, the bigger picture for the collective, the bigger thing that we want to focus on. And Joseph came up. And this is very much, she labels it trailblaze and innovate. And I think it's a really beautiful thing if I just read a little bit of a passage around this. And it says, currently Joseph's life and energy are calling you to fresh pastures, to tread new ground, possibly to travel physically or in your mind, to plant fertile seeds, or to be the first to do or say something. So to do so may necessitate breaking out of old templates, family conditioning, and beliefs of what you think you can achieve. You are encouraged to be brave in forging new relationships, alliances, and experiences, starting either from 0 point or with some aspects already known. It may be that the path you carve inspires others to follow your example, influencing ideas and stimulating new energy. So recognize too that you will be helped to build a solid foundations and practical framework to succeed. You would not be encouraged by spirit to change, adapt, or begin again if you would meet failure. So it says each generation builds on the previous, creating something bigger and better that enriches the world and themselves. Allow Joseph to help you with life's transitions as a shepherd who knows where you need to be, what needs attending to, and offers practical help guiding you and making sure no stone is left unturned. Your new life awaits. Plant the seeds now for your future that is already assured. And I love this. It's such a beautiful message. And it reminds me too that yesterday we entered the new moon in Pisces. this new moon was a great time to set that bigger vision for yourself. It is about that higher self perspective. And it is definitely a time to set your sights on what you want to bring in and to be welcoming in those new relationships, those new partnerships, those new opportunities, and building something from scratch. And with that, I wanted to also let you guys know that I have an exciting new project that is rolling out on March 1st. And this has been calling to me for a while. So I dipped my toe in the water to create a small community off my website last year. And I didn't like the platform. It didn't feel right to me. And it also didn't feel right to be doing it by myself either. And so an opportunity came up recently to partner with my friend Heather Fisher Page of Integra Holistic Wellness. And she and I are very symbiotic in our energies. We are two people who do a lot of work within the unseen worlds, but we also are living very much in our third dimensional life. And a lot of what we have learned to do and the path that we have been navigating is being able to straddle these two worlds, but doing it in a way that comes back to practical tools and practical ways of living our everyday life, but also being highly sensitive and highly in tune with all of the things going on in the world. So we are launching on March 1st a new community on Patreon called Light Alchemy Collective. And I will put all the links and stuff within here for you to find it. And we know that because there's so much going on right now, there's so much noise and there's so much uncertainty and there's so many things that are moving and changing at a rapid rate, that we felt very called that, again, it's about this time feels very much focused on community. And while we may not be physically all in the same location, there are many of us who are stationed around the globe who are there as light anchors and light holders to be able to help the collective. But one thing that we always talk about is how at times it can be a very lonely job to do this because, and it can be confusing because you are having these experiences, you're having these emotions, you're having these things that are happening, and you're not always sure what to do about it. You're not always sure how to navigate it. And you're not always sure if you can turn to anybody to talk about it. And so we wanted to create a sacred container where people who are, no matter where you're at on your path, no matter where you're at, that we can provide a safe space to be able to have community in which we can talk to each other about these things, but also that we can provide guidance and tools and practices and energetic support and all the things to you to be able to help you on your personal journey. And Heather and I are both very much here to serve the collective. We are here to serve, and that is our main driver. And we know also that we have to have a strong foundation in place first and foremost in order to do this. So our entire content and curriculum and tools and tips for the month of March ties into all of the energy that we are feeling, where we need a solid foundation in place. We need to make sure that the foundation is absolutely solid and in place in order for us to navigate through these big external changes that are happening. And so we have 3 different tiers available. They're at different price points in order to make sure that we are providing resources and tools at a level in which people can participate. And we want to make sure that we are also ensuring that we have people that are matched, that are on similar pathways as well, so that we can have a community in which to interact with each other and support each other depending on kind of where we're at in the path. So we're on Patreon at Light Alchemy Collective. We also have started an Instagram, Light Alchemy Collective, as well on IG. And I hope you check it out. I hope it resonates with you. We would love to have you join us. And again, we would love to be able to support you through your personal journey as well. The other thing that Heather and I are providing at the upper tier is a monthly get together. This is a Q&A for you to ask us anything that's going on, to share your experiences. And with your permission, we can tap into your energy and provide any sort of guidance and insights. Heather is an intuitive medium and channel. She works with interdimensional energies and archangels. She's a channel for Archangel Metatron as well. And so she's an amazing energetics practitioner and teacher. And so with my background in energetics practitioner and also working in the unseen worlds, as we both do, so we have a lot of experience doing that, as well as just foundational pieces like working through how do you interact with friends when you've outgrown them energetically? How do you take care of ancestral trauma pieces and how do you handle those things? How do you move your body on a day-to-day basis? Or how do you eat when you're a highly sensitive person? So those are the sort of like tools and techniques and tips that we are going to be focusing on and making sure that you have the resources that you need in order to navigate through these changes and navigate through your own personal journey. So I hope you can join us. Anyway, with that, that is what's going on in March. I'm sure I will be back for another episode soon. But in the meantime, I am sending all my love to you. And just remember, stay in your center, stay neutral as much as you possibly can, and look at the future, the bright future that is ahead of all of us. It's really an exciting time, but also stay in the positive mindset as we continue to navigate through a lot of amazing changes. Take care of yourselves.